Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I have Leann Dameron here with me to tell her dating after divorce story. Leann is a florist, which is a little different from my usual guests. So I'm excited to hear about who you are and what you do. Welcome, Leann. Please introduce yourself to the listeners.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I own a small business called Lily's Garden out of Chicago. I'm a floral designer, but I'm also trained as a master gardener. So what I really love to do is I focus a lot on teaching. So I teach a ton of virtual and also in-person events. So we do a lot of corporate events for companies all over the country, and we ship kits around the US and also do some events, a couple weddings a year, just because I love the artistic side too. So we do a ton of teaching and then a little bit of design work as well.
Awesome. That sounds so unique. Like I have one plant that I have managed to keep alive, probably for the first time since when I was a kid. My parents had plants and we watered them and they stayed alive for the most part. But as an adult, I for some reason could not keep a plant alive. I bought my money tree a year ago and it stayed alive. And then I got super excited and got another little plant that promptly killed it.
Well, that's what we're here for. Yeah, we love working with folks. I feel like we work more with folks towards your end, who aren't necessarily as comfortable with plants. And I just try to make people feel as comfortable as they can. I'm kind of a plant coach.
There you go. Perfect. We need you. We need you. Awesome. Well, that is amazing work. And I'm sure a lot of people listening would love to learn about, how to keep their plants alive. Let's just say it like it is.
Yeah, let's just start there.
Yeah. But we're here to talk about your divorce story, your remarriage story. And you had said that your first marriage was really short. Can you tell us kind of what happened there?
Yeah, so I met my ex in my early 20s, and then he was really, my relationship of my 20s. So we dated for about 5 years. We got engaged, and then we pretty quickly got married. And we were really only married for about a little over a year. So things just went down pretty south, went down pretty quickly. It was a hard time. I think we probably should not have gotten married. All the red flags were there very early on. And I just, when you're young, I think, and in love, there's this idea that, well, I love him, or I think we had a lot of love between us, but it was a very toxic relationship and a very challenging one. And a lot of things were very hard. So I had a really, really challenging, pretty much the whole relationship, but especially those last couple of months of marriage. And I just really needed to leave.
Yeah. You had gotten that divorce was in your 20s. So how old were you when you got divorced?
I was 29 when I got divorced, right around my 29th birthday. And I was so embarrassed, because so much of, I feel like the divorce literature out there is a lot more about people in their maybe 40s or even 50s with kids. And I just felt like, gosh, I felt like I had failed quickly. There's some good in that, but I think I had in my head a little bit of feeling of failure, or I just felt like I had made a mistake, and I felt some shame around it that I got over time. But I think it was both in some ways easier to be such a short marriage. We did not have children. There were things that would have made it a lot harder to leave a pretty bad situation. But also some challenges of not having a lot of resources of sort of older people getting divorced.
Yeah. So what was it like being around your friends who were potentially just getting married for the first time, and then you were divorced?
Yeah, a lot of my friends hadn't even gotten married. I know that this year I'm going to a ton of weddings now. I'm more in my mid 30s. And so we're going to tons of kind of post-pandemic or later pandemic, whatever stage we're in, weddings this summer. But yeah, at the time, I was one of the first to get married. I got married when I was 27. And it was just a whirlwind of, not so great things. I think all my friends were really there for me. So really, in a way, I do think divorce almost strengthened a lot of, especially my female friendships, because a couple of my closest friends were so there for me. And nobody was really judgmental, or if they were, they certainly didn't tell me I think everyone was just
Yeah.
happy that I got out of a bad situation and was able to kind of move forward in my life when I needed to.
Yeah. Did you have to do any healing? Did you like have a healing journey? Did you do therapy? How did you move from that to like, okay, I'm ready for a new relationship?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty rough. So I did definitely have a lot of grief. I mean, again, I was only married a year, but we were together 7 years, and it was really my only serious relationship in my life at that point. So, or romantic relationship at least. And I had a therapist prior, and during my marriage who had worked with me and even during my relationship. So I was used to therapy. My therapist was with me the night that I really kind of had to make a move. I had really one night where I felt unsafe for
Mm,
myself and my being. And I think that was the moment, when you're in a toxic relationship, it can be very hard to, you kind of leave and then don't leave. And there's just a lot of
mm-hmm,
back and forth. So I only say that because she really walked me through the night that I felt extremely unsafe because of a lot of things
mm-hmm,
going on. And I remember, calling my therapist crying at 9 o'clock at night, in a parking
mm-hmm.
lot outside of a YMCA. Like it was pretty scary. So that therapist, I'm so grateful to her. She really helped me kind of get through, and my parents helped me. Just my sister, my family came out. I lived in a different state. They helped me move. So I had a lot of family support. I knew that I was just in such a rough spot. I actually moved home. I
Mm.
never expected to move back in with my parents at 29. I had had a pretty successful corporate career right out of college, and I moved home and I just kind of had to get my life back together. So I had family support, emotional support, and therapy, and I think I had some coaches for other life things, and I went on I did a lot of travel that
Mm-hmm.
year. I kind of did my own eat, pray, love. I went to Bali. I went to the south
Nice.
of France. I traveled around the US. So I really, I think I did a lot of things, kind of both fun and getting professional help that really helped me. And I think that about a year after the divorce, I felt a lot more whole than I had
Mm.
before, and more ready to date.
Oh, that's so good. Bali. Yes. Listen, ladies, if you can go to Bali after your divorce, that is the
I
way to do it.
I think I got, well, because it's a lot less expensive there. I think I got 14 spa treatments in 15 days. So I
Hey,
think that helped a lot get over everything.
sign me up for that healing journey. Like I'm in. I love it. I love it.
I
And
would definitely recommend it. I remember sitting there being like, this is the best decision I've ever made in my life.
yeah, yeah. And like you said, healing is not like there's not one way to heal
Mhm.
after a toxic relationship. Like whatever gets you to open up, whatever gets you to get the baggage out. Like obviously you talk to your therapist, you talk to your family members, they were there for you and they mirrored back to you kind of like who you really were.
Yeah, that was really important to kind of remember. And I think that's part of why I wanted to move back home, is remember my life before I had met him and just get back into my groove, and
Mm-hmm.
when you're with someone and so tied with them, it can be really easy to have kind of lost your own identity. And so traveling and just remembering that I can do life myself, and I didn't need
Yes.
to be, with somebody, attached to somebody in their life to be happy.
I love that statement. I can do life by myself. Like
Mhm.
we all need to know that and to remember that and to connect with our own like capabilities and resourcefulness and our own wholeness. Like I'm complete by myself, whatever that looks like for each individual. Like because I remember reclaiming that feeling of, oh yeah, I can handle life because I had
Mhm.
married my ex because I thought I couldn't handle what was ahead of me. And I think that's across the board. Everyone needs to feel like they're a whole adult human being who can handle life.
And I think even in a good relationship, in my relationship now, I actually, this last weekend, I took a solo trip to Tennessee for a few days, and it was
Mm-hmm.
so good just to kind of remember, oh yeah, I love a little solo road trip. Like nothing is
Mm-hmm.
wrong with our relationship, but I think I do even now, just to maybe because of that history I had had, and knowing that I had been in some codependency and a lot of toxic issues, it's important for me
Mm-hmm.
even now to remember that I can be okay myself and even very happy alone. And then I can come
Yeah.
back and bring all that goodness to my relationship. So I still
Yes.
use those tools. And one thing I thought of about the healing, I would say, I kind of forgot about this as we were talking, but probably one of the best things I did was also I went through The Artist's Way. I don't know if you've heard of that book, but
I have. So good.
I almost used that book like my own 12-step program, as much
Mhm.
as it was about getting my creativity back, which really helped me build my own business. It also just helped me kind of, again, that rediscovery of myself and using that as a way to kind of build myself back up. I did every single thing in that book. I have been writing her morning pages. I have been writing for 5 years since I got divorced.
Yeah, so good. Highly recommend The Artist's Way. Now, I
Me
have
too.
not kept up with it. I bought the program. I actually bought the book, the journal, and the online program. I watched all the videos. I tend to do that. I tend to consume the videos, and I did some of the exercise, but I did not complete it. But I highly recommend it for anyone that you feel like you're creative. Part of that is a great tool for self-discovery. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
sharing
and
that.
it was like a life raft. I think we take the tools, and even now, again, the things I learned in my divorce, I think I use now to have a positive relationship with myself and with my partner too.
Yeah, so good. So good. All right. So then you said like about a year later was when you were kind of ready to date again, or how did that go?
Yeah, I think I started a little earlier. Like I think you get divorced, and I was in my 20s, still very 29. And I was at my parents' house though, which was so awkward to try to date and live with my parents. I felt it was such a
Right.
weird setup, but and I wasn't going to stay out all night or whatever, all that stuff. So I did put up a profile. I had always been a fan of dating before when I had met my ex, and even in college I had done the first days of OkCupid, like way back
Mm.
when you write all the emails to each other.
Yes.
So I started doing a little dating about 5 months after my divorce, and then I met someone. I really dated one main person back in California when I moved back home for about a year, so kind of probably 8 months after my divorce, I met someone I really liked for the first time. And that is not who I'm with now, but I really, I had a couple of bad dates, and I ended up with someone there. And I think it was so helpful because I really credit him to reminding me that men can be really great. He was such a
Mm.
gentleman. He was so kind and met me where I was at. And he was just really a gem. And he was a bit younger than me too. And it was just fun to have a great companion. And I really, I still have a lot of love for him, even though we aren't really in touch anymore. But I think it was just great to sort of start. I kind of baby stepped my way into dating and met someone. And then, so I dated somebody for a while, and then I moved when I was kind of ready to move out, and I
Mhm.
moved to a different city. We kind of just sort of gently separated just because I was going to move and kind of start my life over again. But that's what it was to me. And I ended up dating again. And then another kind of few months of sort of dating in the big pool, ended up meeting my current partner. So my
Yeah.
boyfriend today.
I love what you said about realizing that men can be great.
Yeah, it
Like,
was a big lesson. Yeah.
we really do get in the habit of like just really dogging on guys.
Yeah, I think I had great role models. So I did have, my dad he's a great role model to me of how,
Mm.
a really good, solid man, and that my parents are together, and my sister's husband as well. So I have known men who are really amazing, but as a person dating and in my own
Mhm.
relationships, I had felt like I had interacted with I had a lot of negative experiences, some positive, but a lot of just sticky, ucky stuff. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
dating someone who is really a gentleman and, interesting and kind and fun was so important to me, even if we
Mhm.
didn't continue our love journey. I think you can date people who have a really positive impact who may not be your next husband.
Yeah, 100%. And I was, like you said, it's very easy to, even though you have all these amazing men around you, it's almost like the thought that the brain comes up with is, but the men in the dating pool are
Yes.
terrible.
Yeah, and my girlfriends say that. I have a friend who's kind of starting to date again or wants to, and she's like, yeah, but oh, when I open the apps, and I've had some horrible dates. Like
Tell us about one of them. Let's hear. I mean, I
oh
usually say,
man.
well, let's not do the horror stories, but because you have such a great balance in your perspective on men, let's
Yeah.
hear the ones that what
Oh my
that weren't
goodness.
great.
I'm like, where to start? I will say I still love dating. Like if I had to date today, I still feel like I would be excited, but I've had some horrible ones. So I think, oh my gosh, one was just funny. I never went, I have two. So one was just funny. I never went on a date with this person, but I remember on the app, I was talking to him and he said, hey, this is Tinder. So, I mean, you get what you're,
You
but
know what's happening
I
there.
was wanting to date, when you're on so many, it's hard right now with, I think one thing that's hard is figuring out this kind of hookup culture versus date culture. And a lot of the apps have a merge of both. So trying to find your way in that. So I remember he asked me to come over for a steak dinner at his apartment. And I just said, no, but I'd like to meet. Can we maybe go for a walk or go out to eat or something? And he just started just in text, in the app had said, all these women want me to take them out all the time and it costs so much money and all these women just want me to be so rich. I'm just a freelancer here trying to make it work. And I could have just said nothing, but obviously red flag. I did not go on a date with that person, but I just said, hey man, like I'm not needing you to have all the money. I'm a freelancer too. I get it. It's hard out there, but you can get creative. I schooled him on all of the dates that he could take somebody on. I was like, invite somebody to tacos, invite someone on a walk to see the sunset, like get creative if you have no money, and
So here, as a dating coach, my thing is like, listen, if you don't have money, you don't need to be on these apps.
well, yeah,
like you need to sort out that, because people will tell me, I'm like, no, if you cannot afford to pay the premium version of the app, like you really need to rethink your readiness to have a partner in your life.
If you only want, obviously he was probably looking for something else, but yeah, it was just, oh gosh. And then I think I'm trying to think of actually dating somebody. I do think once, this is sad, but I think once I was catfished. So that had never happened to me before, but I definitely had a bunch of texts and then I went to the place and he didn't show up. And it's easy to get in that headspace of like, oh no, did they see me walk in? They didn't think I was attractive, body image and that stuff can come up. But then, you just kind of dust yourself off. Like, I think someone was just messing with me. It felt really bad, but I went on, then I'm going to go another date. I'm all about the numbers. Like you got to kind of get out there. So I've had a few doozies.
I teach my clients to like not take any of it personally. Totally. And that takes you've got to have your confidence on point to be like, listen, this is all just stuff that's happening on the dating journey. It really has nothing to do with you as a human. Doesn't have anything to do with how you look or how you show up or any of those things. In fact, if you take it personally, that's where I'm like, oh, that's the signal that you're not ready, that you need to do some work on your own heart, on your own self-esteem, because someone catfishing you or not showing up is about them. Totally. That behavior is about them.
Yeah. And they might do it to lots of women or who knows, or maybe they just did it to me. I don't know, but I have no control over that. Yeah. And I do think it's so important to have someone to kind of process with, whether it's a coach or for me, I think it was really my best friend. Like we would talk before the dates, after the dates, maybe it's a therapist, but probably not that often, but
it's interesting. Therapists actually do. I have had clients who have worked with their therapist on their dating journey. And then a lot of times they come to me for all right, the dating skills. What do I need to do on the app? How do I do my profile? Those more core practical skills. And I've had clients who've come to me, of course, for both for processing emotionally and dating. But I have been very impressed to hear that there are therapists who will walk their clients through the emotional side of dating. And that makes me very happy.
Yeah. It's scary. I do remember my very first date after being divorced. And again, I was in my 20s, but I still think there is the kind of this shame. It shouldn't be there. I don't believe in it,
Mm.
but I felt this discomfort because I was divorced, and just that label and that idea. And I remember meeting this guy, and I just had so much anxiety, and probably because of a
Mm.
lot of, the bad stuff that had happened, all this stuff, I hadn't really healed as much yet. But I remember I blurted out like 15 minutes into the date. He was like, "Are you okay? You kind of seem a little bit
Mm.
nervous." And I was like, "I'm
Course.
divorced."
I'm just gonna get it out.
And he was like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
There's that sense that you're like damaged goods, or this big deep dark secret.
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
know where that comes from, and I don't feel that way now. I actually kind of use it. To me, it's almost like a badge of honor. Like sometimes I say, "Oh yeah, I'm a divorcee." It's kind of like
I know.
this little secret that no one knows my past.
Sounds rich and
Yeah,
like elite.
exactly.
Love it.
I
So
know.
you were it sounds like you were dating kind of for fun at this point.
Hmm.
How was like what was your mindset? Like you were like not necessarily looking for a commitment. What was your mindset in being in the space of dating, but not like desperate to like pin someone down?
Yeah, I think I had learned just over time that is, I needed to be in that headspace. So when I notice that when I'm more desperate or really looking hard for someone, I think it's really hard to meet someone. And I
Mm.
have done a lot of work with Regina Thomas Shower, or Mama Gina. She has some fun books. And so the concept she always talked about was just bringing in a lot of pleasure and fun, and
Mm.
not putting as much pressure on especially kind of any one guy or any one situation. So I
Yeah.
definitely had those lessons that I had learned and kind of brought them to my dating more now in my 30s. And I had moved back to a new city. I kind of used my mindset with dating is really that you're meeting new people, you get to have some new experiences, and trying as much as you can to have fun with it, even
Mhm.
if you have some negative experiences, kind of work those out and then move on. I also, I think I've heard different dating coaches talk. I'm curious what you think about this, but for me, I also do kind of like, at least in the very beginning, and openly dating more than one person at one time,
Highly
until
recommend it. Highly
yeah,
recommend it.
until you have that commitment on both ends. And I just
Mhm.
wasn't ready, even when I met Eric, who's my current my real partner these days. Even when I first met him, I just wasn't quite there yet to be able
Yeah.
to fully commit. So I was just in it to get to know people. I knew I wanted a partnership, and I did make I did make a little list, and I did think about who I was looking for, but I
Mm.
had a very broad pool, and I went on
Yeah.
a lot of dates. I sometimes had 2-3 dates a week
Yeah.
for that
Awesome. I
summer.
had a client. Well, I guess, yeah. I still consider her my client, but she got married last month. So I don't know.
Aw.
I don't know what to say.
Congrats to her.
How do I deal with this?
A
But
success story.
yes, she had one weekend where she had 8 dates
Oh my
in a
gosh.
weekend. Like we were trying to get together for coffee because we live in the same city. And I was like, what is happening? I can't get on your calendar, lady. What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little stressful. I feel like if you're juggling a lot of dates, so you just go like, which outfit did I wear? Or, what am I doing? And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so I think it can be easy to think the pool is not good, but there are so many gems out there. And
Mhm.
I think just knowing, I like this other advice I've gotten before, just like, what if this is your last single year? I had been married, it had
Mm.
been so negative, and then as you start dating again, even if you stop and start whenever you start dating, like, what if this is the last time I'm ever going to be single?
Yeah.
What if I get married in a year and I'm going to be with somebody for 40 years? Like, this is my last year. So
Yeah.
I'm going to have a fun time with this, because this might never be the case anymore. This kind of freedom and dating and all of it.
What a great way to look at it. I love that. I'm going to steal that. So
Yeah, go for
if you hear my
it.
clients using that line, just know I told it to all of
Yeah,
them.
you might be really like, you may never go on a date, like a
Mm.
single date. again
So
after a year
good.
from now. So
Isn't that kind of how life is? It's like when we have kids, it's like, they're crying or they want my attention. And then they
yeah.
grow out of that stage and we miss it.
Exactly. Yeah. And dating, I have a special place in my heart about dating. I'm even thinking about writing like a book about
Oh, how
dating because I
fun.
really, for me, it is the special place in my heart. I miss that kind of adventurous side of it. And
Hmm.
I'm working on having more of that in my life today. But
Yeah.
there's some stuff, of course, I don't miss. And I love having, real one love in my life
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So let's talk about how you met your husband.
Well, I think we had talked about it before that I am not married, so I have really a
Sorry.
partner.
A
So we have
partner.
been
I
together.
apologize.
I say partner. I mean, I can say boyfriend, but I just feel kind of, we've gone through 2 years of
Partner.
COVID
Partner
together.
sounds grown up. It's like we're not teenagers.
I mean, yeah, and quarantining together, like that just didn't feel like that was more than a boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
100%. So tell us how you
Yeah.
met your partner.
Yeah, we met about 3.5 years ago. We were I was dating, so I was out doing all my dates, but we met in person. So I did a lot of internet dating, and then we just were at a party. So I have a good friend who has a beautiful rooftop, and we were just at kind of a rooftop hang, having drinks with people. Some people I knew, some people I didn't. And Eric was there, and we just started talking a little bit. And I think I was really excited about my business at the time and just kind of couldn't stop talking about it. I was just kind of really excited about some new clients. And he told me later that I was very charming and I was just so excited about my own life that
Mm,
he was really into that. So I thought that was so sweet.
yeah.
And then he did ask for my number that night. So I was feeling good.
Way to go,
And
Eric.
but he
Yes,
did
way to
not
show up.
call me. And he did not call me. I think he was trying to work some stuff out in his life. And
Mm,
he didn't call me. But I was dating. So I was like, all right, no dust, that's not an issue. Like I kept dating other folks. And then a few weeks later, there was kind of a Facebook invite, and I ended up going to the Sangria Festival in Chicago with some friends, kind of the same group.
mhm,
And he called me and he said, "Hey, are you going to this?" Because he saw that I
mhm.
had said I would. So he was just checking. And because I said yes, he ended up coming. So we spent that whole day together. And it ended up just being the two of us and a couple. So it was kind of a double date without calling it a date.
Mhm.
But we spent the whole day listening to music and having sangria and dancing. And then that day, and I thought this is a good move. Any guys out there, is he asked me to go to another thing that day. So we had a
Yeah.
plan for the next weekend on the date, and he kept doing that. So
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
first dates,
My
like
husband
every
did the
date,
same thing too. Like when I was
yeah,
like, yeah, I'd love to do this again. He was like, it's funny you should say that.
yeah. Like I like leaving a date knowing there's another one, and there's none of this. I mean, some people just don't do that. That's not how they do things, but it
Mhm,
really does make you feel liked and have somebody really interested.
mhm.
And I think it was the first time that I had really had that. Like, I always knew when we were going to hang out again.
Yeah.
And what was funny about it all was that the friend who we had in common, she had tried to connect us 5 years before. She had always thought we would be a good match, but
Mm,
I was still kind of in it with my ex. It was actually before we had gotten married. We were kind of on and off again. And it was in an off time, but I just wasn't interested. And Eric and I completely don't remember even meeting each other. So
right. I was gonna ask, do you remember
no,
her
I
telling
don't
you
like I
or
really sure I remember her telling me. So I remember that this happened. I think
Mhm.
we were at another kind of common event, like a potluck or something. And neither of us remember being remotely interested in each other 5 years before.
Yeah.
And then 5 years
Yeah.
later, we were just in more of a space, and we really connected. And so we kept dating again. I kept kind of dating. It took me a few months to really be sure that I was totally ready to settle down. So
Mhm.
we were monogamous, exclusive 3 months from there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of go back to that moment where it's like your friend was like, I see both of you together.
Yeah.
And it really just underscores what I'm always teaching my clients. Like I say it 100,000 different ways. It feels like that, like your brain is what creates this relationship.
Yeah.
And when your mindset isn't where it needs to be, there could be 10 amazing men in your orbit and you will literally not see them.
Totally. Yeah. And you can, yeah, and just kind of just not attract, or
Yeah.
you're not seeing that they exist around you, or you're going to see the wrong thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time I didn't have any space for anybody else because I was still in that toxic
Mm-hmm.
mess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I also think that I say, kind of being all juicy and excited about my life. I think that's why Eric and I
Yes.
got together, because I really had that kind of sparkle about myself. And I
Yeah.
think that can be, I've noticed I really end up with people who are a better fit for me when I'm doing really well
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Yeah. So what is it about your partner that like makes him Mr. Right for you?
Mm. I just think the one word that sticks out to me is just he's kind. He's a
Mm.
really good person. He if I kind of think back to my other relationship, I would have said a lot of positive things about my ex, even though it was so tumultuous. But I don't know that kindness would have been a mean word that I would have used to describe him. And I think now, gosh, I could never be with someone who I wouldn't say is just a kind, good person. So,
Yeah.
I mean, at bottom, I think, Eric is one of the best people I know. And I
Mm-hmm.
admire what a good person he is. And he's just, so likable and all those things. But also, uh, we just get along. I think when you're in such a messy relationship, and then, I'm just kind of realized, oh, it's possible to not fight all the time. It's possible to not cry all the time. It's
Mm.
possible to just, we sit on our little couch with our little dog that we have together and watch TV, and it's always fun. We just are always having fun together. And
Yeah. The
there's a lot of,
ordinary moments are beautiful.
yeah,
Like,
and we just are always have a good time. We're always kind of flirting. We always are kind of being silly. And again, fun is a really important thing for me. And I think for him too, being playful. And we really have that
mhm.
all the time. So, we're kind of always dating.
Yeah.
And it just,
And
yeah.
kindness, getting along, flirting, laughter, those are things you cannot fake. You
Yeah, and
can't
at
fake it.
bottom, there of course there are other, there's things, and of course he's handsome to me, and all that stuff, and there is a spark, of course, but I think that like day to day getting along really, really well, and he's just not
Mhm.
someone that I get tired of.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anyone else I could have spent the last 2 years with and
Mhm.
not have gone just totally crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there are times when my husband like annoys me or does something I don't like,
Oh,
and I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
I still want you around. I'm just mad. Like you're gonna be here
Yeah.
forever.
And I did want to go on my little escape to Tennessee this last weekend, but I think at bottom, I think we just really enjoy each other. And I think that's so
Yeah.
important for a long-term partner, versus
Yes.
that kind of quick spark, like that can happen with a lot of people. I think that sort of,
Mhm.
we just really enjoy each other is so important.
Yeah. And you had said, like you enjoy each other versus crying a lot. Did you cry a lot in your past relationship?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was rough. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, and I just didn't, because I had never had a other
Hmm.
kind of relationship, I think or a long one. I think I knew something was wrong, but again, I think also from movies and like I love the passion, and
Hmm.
sort of mistook some things that were quite toxic or even emotionally abusive as passion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like now being in a relationship where, gosh, it's like, oh yeah, that did not need to be the case.
Yeah.
That
And
was
then
not healthy.
right. And I brought that up just exactly like what you said. A lot of times we don't know what it's supposed to look like, especially in that first
Yeah.
relationship. We don't know what it's supposed to look like inside
Yeah, and
that
everyone
relationship.
says, all relationships are different. And I
Hmm.
remember my parents came to visit because I had moved to a different state. I lived in Michigan outside Detroit when I was with my ex when we were married, and my parents came to visit, and I was really upset one day. I got upset over something, even just at lunch with my parents, and they knew something was wrong. And I think at some point my mom was kind of asking, like, you got to be over 50% good Like it might not be 100%, it might not even be 70%, like depending just with the changes in life and things that happen. But if you are unhappy more than 50% of the time with your partner, like that, it's like something's going on.
Yeah. My rule of thumb is if you look at the whole thing, like if you take the long term, 80% needs to be 80% minimum.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. But even the moment, that having it less than 50% on a day-to-day, kind of right where you're at, I think is a good, like, we got to either go to therapy, which we tried, all that we tried a lot of things, but it really, it's just good to know now that that's not what love is. I don't think that's what love is supposed to look like.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for just being so vulnerable with your story and letting us into those moments. I know I connect with a lot of what you described, both the before and the after, and I know a lot of the listeners, will too. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes to riff on dating as a whole. We want all of your best advice, tips, tricks for ladies, like whether it's for the younger listeners who are in their 20s and are dating again or are divorced and dating again, or, those of us who are over 40 who just want to know how to do this.
Yeah, I think it's the same across the board. And I'm thinking of writing a book because I'm quite passionate about some of this stuff. So I think a couple of things. One, I think it's really important to get intentional. So I did, before starting dating, even though, for me, it's fun and all that stuff, I did, especially moving through from the heartbreak on, it was kind of a lifeline for me to get clear on what I was looking for, to kind of imagine that this other person could be out there. So I remember I did make a list of kind of my desired qualities in a partner, where I think some women that I've met in my life, I think it can get tricky is when that list is a bunch of boxes somebody needs to check. I think that list is important, that you have, like, be open-minded about a lot of those, kind of like their job or their education and even the money, like being more open-minded about some of those things we think are really important, even if I feel like a lot of people don't want to admit that, but I do see a lot of people having all these boxes. Some may be really important to you, and that's not a problem. But I do think that getting clearer on sort of those emotions, like how do you want to feel with someone? What are their values? Are they, like, gosh, after you meet somebody for a date, is this a good person?
Yes.
Like,
it's the green flags. I actually recently wrote about it in my email list, was like, you have to know when the green flags are missing. There could be zero red flags, but there's some important green flags that might also be missing, which might make this person not appropriate for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think getting that clarity. And then I remember for me, I also made a vision board. And what was funny is starting to kind of see those things that I just had pictures of. Like, I had a picture of a guy and a woman at a potluck. And I remember one night with Eric, that was that was the night I decided I was like, okay, let's just be boyfriend and girlfriend. Let's do this all the way. And it was because we were at a friend's potluck, and Eric had a lot of friends. And I knew I wanted somebody who had a lot of good friendships, because my ex didn't have a lot of good friends. Another red flag. But those things, so I think having that sort of those things that are what is really important to you. And it might, after divorce, I think what's so kind of amazing about such a often horrible process is you get that clarity on what, taking the time to figure out, what do I really want? Looking after having that, what am I really wanting? And it might be different, Eric and I are the same height. We're 5'3" couple.
Oh.
And we have a little dog, and we're so cute. We're the cutest little couple. And, would I have imagined that this is what I have in my life? Like, maybe not, but
imagine if you'd said he has to be 6'1".
Yeah, exactly. So some of those more superficial things, and even education, we have pretty different education backgrounds, but I really, value Eric's intellect and intelligence, but we just he was in the military, and we just have a really different background, but I think we have the same, very similar values. And I think that's really important. And then Also, I really can't emphasize enough. I think it's so important to have fun with the dating. Again, even when I started, it feels a little scary, but the more you
Mm,
can at you try to go on dates that you're going to actually enjoy, go to that
mhm.
restaurant you've been wanting to, or suggesting things that you want to do,
Yeah.
like, and having on your profile. Like, I remember I had put there that I really like cocktails, I like mixology. So people would invite me to some of the coolest cocktail bars in the city. And I got to
Nice.
see all these great places. And so even if I was having a bad time, like at least I got to see if I liked the cocktail menu, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And really to underscore that, like there's nothing wrong with the lady saying, I'd love to go on a date to this place and this restaurant.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
because
Yeah.
I was kind of of the same mindset. I had like these things, like all the things in St. Louis that I wanted to do. So I was
Mhm.
constantly suggesting dates. Like whenever I met someone and we were going on the first date, if he didn't like come up with the thing initially,
Yeah.
at least I would come up with stuff. Although if over time, if there was like no reciprocity on that, then I'd be like, oh, he's not for me.
Oh,
But
for
I knew I
sure.
had
Yeah.
enjoyed like a couple of dates to restaurants I wanted to go to.
Yeah. There's no shame in that. I mean, I think if you can enjoy, I guess the last thing for me is that I think it's important to try to enjoy the date you're on, no matter kind of
Mm.
who it's with. So
Mm.
enjoying the process, you don't have to go out with them again. I'm not saying to kind of fake it like you like them and you don't. But I mean, unless of course, if it's an unsafe situation or something it's going to be a big waste of time. But I do think kind of finding a way to have a good time, even if it's someone you never
Mm.
want to see again because there might not be a good fit. I think I like trying to be curious and getting to know about somebody else's life that's
Mm.
very different than yours. So just coming into dating as an adventure with curiosity, with kind of this mindset of fun, with of course the looking out for red flags and keeping yourself safe and
Yeah.
listening to your intuition too. I mean, you can't just have fun. Like there's other things that have to happen there.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you saying enjoy the process. Don't like
Mhm.
put a whole lot of pressure on that one date to
Or that one person. Yeah.
to determine your whole life.
Exactly. Somebody you think might be great for you might not feel the same way, but as if you're but you're talking to somebody else, like it just takes the pressure off of those situations a little bit.
Yeah, it's excellent advice. Excellent advice. Thank you so much,
Thank
Leanne.
you.
I really
So
appreciate
fun.
it.
This is one of my favorite topics. Yeah, I feel like everybody, once you're in a relationship, you're like, oh my gosh, my dating years.
I know, right? Well, you'll have to write that book and then you'll have to come back on
I
the
started
podcast.
thinking about it. Yeah, I want to give all these little nuggets out in just a little mini book, something easy to read and
Ah,
maybe a little workbook or just something cute. So
totally.
you
Well,
can give it to your
definitely.
clients when I'm done.
Yes, totally. Let me know when it's done, and we'll have you come back on to tell us all about it and share it with the listeners. I want to just thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
please remind the listeners kind of what you do, who you work with, what they can reach out to you for, and like where they can find you on the internet.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I am Leann Dameron, but you're probably going to find me under Lily's Garden. So I go by Leann or Lily, and that's LEELEES garden.com. And listeners who are in a company, some people kind of think they work with me more if they're getting married or, if it's sort of a company that has to do with plants. I really work with everybody. So if you work at a tech
Mm.
company or an accounting company or you're a lawyer, if you want to do something fun with your coworkers or have some kind of interesting client event, that is a lot of what we do is team building, either employee or customer appreciation workshops for companies all over the country. So if you're interested in that, or if you want, if you want to see some kind of fun ideas for your wedding, you can check out my
Mm.
Instagram, also at Lily's Garden. You can always reach out via Instagram or through my website. We have a form you can fill out if you're interested in a workshop.
Absolutely. We all need to like just get our vision boards and go to your Instagram
Oh, yes, please.
and
I do
grab
for
like,
weddings
yes,
too.
and just
Yeah.
grab like some printouts for our wedding vision boards, or for
Totally.
someone like me. Like it's interesting. I was watching Love is Blind with my
Oh,
son
I
today,
could do a whole podcast just talking about that show.
and I was like, I need to renew my vows because this looks fun and I want to do it again.
Yeah, for real. The funny thing is, I feel like I had my dream wedding with my ex, and now I'm kind of excited because if we get married, I'm not saying we won't, but if we do, I'm thinking about it. And I think I could just do something so different, or like
Yeah.
elope or something. When you get to get married a second time, you can do something totally different.
Yeah, there are these fun destination elopement type. Oh my gosh, there's so much that one can do now. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to do this like every 3 years just to like
Yeah.
experience
Yeah. But
all the.
renew your vows. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not weddings. Renewal of vows slash pretend wedding,
For real.
just so that I can like flesh out all the dreams that I have of what my wedding to my now husband, we had it at his house, which was just so nice, and
Oh,
we had the people closest to us there, and it was very intimate, very beautiful. It was amazing. I totally enjoyed and loved it. But then like I'm looking at these dresses. I just had a pretty simple white dress, and I was
mhm.
looking at wedding dresses today, and I was like, how can I get
Right.
myself in one of these?
Yeah, renew those vows. Like, yeah, it sounds like maybe you should have a side hustle as a wedding planner. I think I want a side hustle as a dating coach slash
As a dating coach,
author. So we
right?
can we can swap places.
Absolutely. Leann, you're a delight and a
You are
shining light.
too.
And I
Thank
just
you.
appreciate your wisdom that you shared with the listeners today. Thank you so much for your time. Listeners, thank you so much. Please follow Leann. All of her links will be in the show notes. Reach out to her if you are interested in working with her, or if you are interested in her ideas about dating. Like totally connect with her. I want to thank you all for your time and attention, and I will see you next time.